You know that moment when someone who's supposed to love you unconditionally looks you dead in the eye and tells you you're worthless? Yeah, I lived that moment. Multiple times, actually. My father, Richard Montgomery, the great real estate mogul of Charleston, South Carolina, spent 32 years making sure I knew exactly how little I meant to him. But here's the thing about being underestimated your entire life. It gives you a hunger that trust fund babies will never understand. My name is Lorelei Montgomery, and this is the story of how my father's cruelty became the fuel for the sweetest revenge I could have ever imagined. The golden child and the forgotten daughter. Let me paint you a picture of my childhood. It's 1998, and I'm 8 years old, sitting at our mahogany dining table in our sprawling colonial home. My younger brother, Preston, just got a standing ovation from Dad for bringing home a C+ on his math test. Meanwhile, I'm clutching my report card with all A's, and Dad doesn't even look up from his Wall Street Journal. "Lorelei, stop seeking attention," he'd said when I tried to show him. "Preston actually struggled for that grade. You? Good grades are the bare minimum we expect from you." That was my childhood in a nutshell. Preston could do no wrong. He was the heir apparent, the golden child, the son who would carry on the Montgomery legacy. Me? I was just the daughter who happened to be born first, an inconvenience wrapped in a pink bow. My mother, Diane, tried her best to shield me, but she was fighting a losing battle. Dad controlled everything, the money, the social standing, the narrative. She'd hug me tight after Dad's particularly brutal comments and whisper, "You're going to do amazing things, baby. I just know it." She died when I was 17, breast cancer, and with her went the only person in that house who actually loved me. The trust fund that never was fast, forward to my college graduation from Yale in 2012. I'd worked my tail off, juggling 2 jobs and a full course load because Dad made it crystal clear that while Preston's education was an investment, mine was charity. I graduated summa cum laude with a degree in business and finance. Preston barely scraped by at a state school with a communications degree, but guess who got the corner office job at Montgomery Real Estate? The final betrayal came on my 25th birthday in 2015. Family tradition dictated that Montgomery children receive their trust fund at 25. Preston had gotten his, a cool $2.5 million 2 years earlier. He'd immediately bought a Porsche and a downtown condo. I showed up to Dad's office that September morning, naively hopeful. Maybe, just maybe, this would be the moment he acknowledged me. Dad was sitting behind his massive oak desk, Preston lounging in the leather chair beside him like he owned the place. They were laughing about something when I walked in. The laughter died the second they saw me. "Lorelei," Dad said, my name sounding like a curse in his mouth. "I assume you're here about the trust fund." "Yes, sir," I replied, hating how small my voice sounded. Preston smirked. He actually smirked. I should have known right then what was coming. Dad leaned back in his chair, fingers steepled together like some mob boss about to deliver a verdict. "There is no trust fund for you, Lorelei." The words hit me like a physical blow. "What? You heard me? Your grandfather's will stipulated that trust funds go to heirs who would contribute to the family business. Preston is working here, learning the ropes, continuing the legacy. You?" He waved his hand dismissively. "You've made it abundantly clear you have no interest in Montgomery real estate." "That's because you never offered me a position." My voice was rising now, all that carefully controlled emotion spilling out. "Preston got hired before he even graduated. I've asked repeatedly—" "And I've told you repeatedly," Dad interrupted, his voice cold as January ice, "that this business requires a certain type of person. Someone with natural instinct, with boldness. You're too cautious, too analytical. You'd sink this company within a year." Preston was openly grinning now. "The bastard was enjoying this, so that's it?" I asked, tears burning behind my eyes that I refused to let fall. 25 years and I get nothing? Dad stood up, walked around his desk and looked down at me with those hard gray eyes. "Don't expect a penny from me, Lorelei. Not now, not ever. You're a smart girl. You figure it out. Build your own life. Maybe it'll teach you some character." Something inside me crystallized in that moment. All the pain, all the rejection, all those years of trying to earn love from a man incapable of giving it. It transformed into something sharp and focused. I looked him right in the eye and said, "Didn't need it, old man." Then I turned and walked out of that office, out of that building, and out of their lives. I heard Preston's laughter echoing down the hallway. Let him laugh. He had no idea what was coming. The wilderness years, the next 3 years, were brutal. I won't sugarcoat it. I lived in a studio apartment in a sketchy part of town, worked 80-hour weeks at a small investment firm, and lived on ramen noodles and spite. Pure, distilled spite. But here's what Dad never understood about me. I wasn't just book smart. I had vision. While he was busy flipping commercial properties using the same strategies his father taught him in the 70s, I was studying emerging markets, learning about technology sector investments, and building connections with people he'd never even consider networking with. I also had one advantage he'd never expected. I was invisible to him. He'd written me off so completely that he never bothered keeping tabs on what I was doing. Preston would occasionally drunk text me from whatever club he was at, usually something like, "Still broke, sis?" or "Dad says hi," with a laughing emoji. I never responded. Let them think I was struggling. Meanwhile, I was saving every penny, building my credit, and identifying opportunities. I befriended a woman named Marcelina Chen, a tech genius who'd developed an algorithm for predicting real estate market fluctuations. She'd been laughed out of every investment firm in Charleston because she was young, female, and had an idea that seemed too good to be true. I believed in her. More importantly, I scraped together $50,000 of my savings and convinced 2 other investors to match it. We launched Chen Analytics in late 2016. By 2018, we had contracts with 3 of the top 10 real estate firms in the Southeast. By early 2019, we'd gone national. Marcelina's algorithm was terrifyingly accurate, and our clients were making money hand over fist. Dad still had no idea I was involved. The company was registered under Marcelina's name, and I operated as a silent partner. I'd learned that lesson well. Stay in the shadows until you're ready to strike. The first domino falls. The crash came from Montgomery real estate in the summer of 2019. Dad had overextended on a massive commercial development downtown. Convinced that the market would support it, his gut instinct told him so, he'd probably said. That same instinct that supposedly made him superior to me. But Marcelina's algorithm had predicted a downtown commercial real estate slump 6 months earlier. Our clients had all pulled back from that sector. Dad? He doubled down. When the anchor tenant backed out in July, taking 3 other major leases with them, Dad was suddenly holding a half-finished $45 million project with no revenue stream. The banks started circling. I heard about it through industry contacts. Preston had apparently been too busy enjoying the high life to actually work, and Dad was scrambling to hold things together. I could have felt sorry for him. I should have felt sorry for him. I didn't. Instead, I made a phone call to Marcus Rothstein, a commercial developer who'd been trying to break into Charleston's market for years. Dad had blackballed him from every deal out of some petty grudge from decades ago. "Marcus," I said when he answered, "how'd you like to own a piece of downtown Charleston real estate at 70 cents on the dollar?" We met at a coffee shop the next day. I laid out exactly how underwater Montgomery real estate was, how the banks were preparing to force a sale of the downtown project, and how he could position himself as the white knight buyer. "Why are you helping me?" he asked, suspicious but interested. "Let's just say Richard Montgomery and I have a complicated history," I replied, "and I believe in karma." The deal closed in September 2019. Dad lost the downtown project, took a massive financial hit, and had to lay off 30% of his workforce. Preston, to absolutely no one's surprise, was useless during the crisis. I sent Dad a flower arrangement that week. A modest one, nothing fancy. The card read, "Heard about your troubles. Hope you figure it out. Maybe it'll teach you some character." He knew it was from me. He had to. Building my empire. The Montgomery real estate stumble was just the beginning. With the profits from Chen Analytics and some strategic investments, I started my own real estate development firm in January 2020. I called it Lorelei Ventures, and I focused on exactly what Dad always dismissed: small-scale residential developments, affordable housing projects, and adaptive reuse of historic properties. Dad thought those markets were beneath Montgomery real estate. I thought they were the future. Turns out, I was right. While COVID-19 devastated commercial real estate in 2020, The residential market exploded. People wanted homes, wanted to get out of apartments, wanted space. My projects were positioned perfectly. I also had something Dad never prioritized, a reputation for treating people well. I paid my contractors fairly and on time. I hired talented people regardless of their pedigree. I built relationships based on mutual respect rather than fear. Word spread. By 2021, I had more projects than I could handle. By 2022, Lorelei Ventures was worth more than Montgomery real estate at its peak. And Dad? He was hemorrhaging clients, struggling to stay relevant, and watching his golden child son prove utterly incompetent at actually running a business. Preston had developed a nice cocaine habit and a gambling problem. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree, except this apple rolled downhill and kept going. The reckoning, October 15th, 2023, was the day everything came full circle. Montgomery Real Estate officially declared bankruptcy. The company that had been in my family for 3 generations, the legacy Dad had protected at the cost of his own daughter's happiness, was done. I was in my office, a corner office in a building I owned, because I believe in symbolism, when my assistant told me Richard Montgomery was in the lobby asking to see me. My first instinct was to tell security to throw him out, but that would have been the move of someone who was still hurt, still angry. I wasn't angry anymore. I was victorious. "Send him up," I said. He looked old. That was the first thing I noticed when he walked into my office. Richard Montgomery, the man who'd seemed invincible throughout my childhood, looked old and tired and beaten. His suit, while still expensive, hung a little loose on him. His face was gaunt. Those hard gray eyes that had looked at me with such contempt were now uncertain, almost afraid. "Lorelei," he said, and his voice cracked on my name. I didn't stand up, didn't invite him to sit. Just watched him from behind my desk, a desk bigger than his had ever been, and waited. He started, then stopped. Richard Montgomery, never at a loss for words, was struggling to speak. "I need your help." 3 words. That's all it took for 32 years of pain to come rushing back. But I kept my face neutral. "Help with what?" I asked coolly. "The company. The bankruptcy. Preston and I. We can't." He actually looked ashamed. "We made mistakes. Bad investments. Preston's problems didn't help. But we can restructure. Rebuild. I just need capital. A loan. I'll pay you back with interest. I just need money," I finished for him. "You need money from me. The daughter you told didn't deserve a penny. The daughter you called too cautious, too analytical, not bold enough for the family business. That daughter." He flinched. "I was wrong." "Oh, you were wrong about a lot of things, Dad." I leaned back in my chair, mimicking that pose he'd used so many times to intimidate me. "You were wrong about me. Wrong about Preston. Wrong about building a business on fear and nepotism instead of talent. Wrong about dismissing entire market sectors because your pride couldn't admit the world was changing." "I know," he said quietly. "I know all of that now. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry for how I treated you, for how I made you feel, for—" "Stop." I held up my hand. "You're not sorry you hurt me. You're sorry you were wrong. There's a difference. You're here because you're desperate. Not because you've grown a conscience after 68 years. He had tears in his eyes now. Actual tears. I'd never seen Richard Montgomery cry. Not at Mom's funeral. Not ever. "What do you want me to say?" he asked. And there was something broken in his voice. That I'm a terrible father? That I ruined our relationship? That I'd give anything to go back and do it differently? Because it's all true. It's all true, Lorelei. I destroyed this family. I know that. For just a second, I felt a flicker of something. Not quite pity, but maybe recognition of shared humanity. This was an old man who'd built his entire identity on being powerful and right, And now he had to face the fact that he was neither. But then I remembered. I remembered 8-year-old me trying to show him my report card. 17-year-old me crying at Mom's funeral while he stood stone-faced beside me. 25-year-old me being told I'd never amount to anything. Here's what's going to happen, I said, my voice steady and clear. I'm going to buy the remaining assets of Montgomery Real Estate. Not at a premium. At market value, which, given the bankruptcy, is probably 30% of what you think they're worth. Those assets will be folded into Lorelei Ventures. The Montgomery Real Estate name will cease to exist. His face went white. Lorelei, please. I'm not finished. You and Preston will both be required to sign non-compete agreements. You will not work in real estate in South Carolina for the next 5 years. Preston needs to go to rehab. Actual rehab, not some luxury resort. I'll pay for that, because despite everything, he's still my brother and he's still salvageable. What about me? Dad asked, his voice barely a whisper. You? I stood up now, walked around my desk, and looked down at him the same way he'd looked down at me 8 years ago. You get to live with the consequences of your choices. You get to watch the daughter you dismissed build something better than you ever did. You get to know that the Montgomery legacy, the real legacy, lives on through me, not you. I walked to my office door and opened it. My lawyers will send over the paperwork. You have 72 hours to accept the offer. After that, the assets go to auction and you get nothing. He stood there for a long moment, looking at me like he was seeing me for the first time. You really are remarkable, he said softly. I wish I'd been smart enough to see it sooner. Yeah, I replied. Me too. He walked out of my office, shoulders slumped, looking every one of his 68 years. I closed the door behind him and stood there for a moment, waiting to feel something. Triumph? Satisfaction? Vindication? Instead, I just felt tired and free. The aftermath. 3 days later, Dad signed the papers. Montgomery Real Estate became part of Lorelei Ventures. I kept most of the remaining employees, the ones who'd actually been doing the work while Dad and Preston coasted on the family name. Preston did go to rehab. He got clean, stayed clean, and last I heard, he's working as a project manager at a small construction firm in Asheville. He sent me a letter last year apologizing for everything. I wrote back. We're not close, but we're cordial. That's something. Dad moved to a small condo in Mount Pleasant. He doesn't work. Doesn't do much of anything, from what I hear. Preston says he asks about me sometimes. Wonders how I'm doing. I haven't reached out. Maybe someday I will. Maybe I won't. I'm still deciding if forgiveness is something he deserves or something I need. What I do know is this. I built everything I have from scratch, with no trust fund, no family connections, no safety net. Every success is mine. Every dollar I've earned came from my own intelligence, my own vision, my own determination. 1 year later. The full circle. November 10th, 2024. Almost exactly a year after Dad walked into my office begging for help. I'm standing at a podium at the Charleston Business Excellence Awards, accepting the Entrepreneur of the Year award. Lorelei Ventures just closed a deal that will bring 500 units of affordable housing to the city's underserved communities. In my acceptance speech, I thank my team, my mentors, my mother's memory. I talk about the importance of resilience, of believing in yourself even when others don't, of turning pain into purpose. I look out at the audience and see Dad sitting in the back row. He's clapping, tears streaming down his face. Preston is next to him, clean-cut and sober, clapping too. I don't call them out. Don't mention them. They don't get to be part of this story I'm telling. But after the ceremony, as I'm heading to my car, I hear someone call my name. Lorelei, wait. It's Dad, slightly out of breath from hurrying after me. I just wanted to say, that speech was beautiful. You're doing amazing things. Your mother would be so proud. He pauses. I'm proud. For 32 years, I would have given anything to hear those words. Now? Now they're just words. Thank you, I say simply. Not cold, not warm, just neutral. Do you think? He starts, then stops. Starts again. Do you think maybe we could get coffee sometime? Just to talk? I look at this old man, this stranger who shares my DNA but never bothered to know me. Part of me wants to say no, to walk away and never look back. But I think about Mom, about how she always believed in second chances, in the possibility of redemption. Maybe, I say finally, maybe someday. But not today, he nods, understanding. Okay, that's more than I deserve. Thank you. I get in my car and drive away, watching him get smaller in my rearview mirror. And I realize something profound. I don't need his approval anymore. I don't need his money, his name, his validation. I have my own name now, my own legacy, my own story. Richard Montgomery tried to write me out of the family narrative. Instead, I wrote my own story. And it's better than anything he could have imagined. Epilogue. What I learned. If you're reading this and you've ever been the forgotten child, the underestimated daughter, the one who was told you'd never measure up, this is for you. Your worth is not determined by people who can't see it. Your potential is not limited by people who can't imagine it. And your future is not defined by people who tried to deny it. Dad said, "Don't expect a penny from me." And you know what? He was right. I didn't need his pennies. I made my own dollars. Millions of them. He thought he was punishing me. Instead, he freed me. Because when you have nothing to lose, you have everything to gain. When no one believes in you, you learn to believe in yourself with a ferocity that can move mountains. I'm not going to lie and say it didn't hurt. It did. It hurt so much that some nights I cried myself to sleep in that studio apartment, wondering if he was right about me. But pain, I learned, can be a catalyst. It can break you, or it can forge you into something stronger than you ever imagined. I chose to let it forge me. Today, Lorelei Ventures is valued at over $200 million. We've developed 2,000 residential units across 3 states. We've created jobs for hundreds of people. We've helped families afford homes they never thought they could have. We've taken neglected historic buildings and turned them into community treasures. That's my legacy. Not the Montgomery name. Not the trust fund I never got. Not the approval I stopped seeking. My legacy is built on the simple belief that everyone deserves a chance, that talent exists in unexpected places, and that the best revenge isn't destruction, it's creation. So yeah, Dad said I'd never amount to anything without him. And I said I didn't need him. Turns out, we were both right. Final thoughts. Someone asked me recently if I ever regretted burning bridges with my father, if I ever wished I'd taken a different path. The truth? I don't see it as burning bridges. I see it as building my own road. Would I have chosen this path if Dad had loved me the way I needed? Probably not. I might have ended up working in the family business, following in his shadow, never discovering what I was truly capable of. In a twisted way, his rejection was the best thing that ever happened to me. But I wouldn't recommend this path to anyone. Being unloved by a parent leaves scars that never fully heal. Having to prove yourself over and over because one person couldn't see your worth is exhausting. The vindication is sweet, sure, but it doesn't erase the pain of that 8-year-old girl who just wanted her daddy to be proud of her. If you're a parent reading this, see your children. Really see them. Not who you want them to be, not who you think they should be, but who they actually are. Because one day they'll grow up and they won't need you anymore. And if you've spent their whole life making them feel worthless, don't be surprised when they prove you wrong and leave you behind. And if you're someone who's been dismissed, underestimated, or written off, use it. Channel every ounce of that pain into fuel. Let every person who doubted you become a name on your list of reasons to succeed. Build something so magnificent that they can't help but see it. But here's the secret they don't tell you. You're not building it for them. You're building it for you. For the child you were who deserved better. For the future you dreamed about on those hard nights. For every person who comes after you who needs to know it's possible. My name is Lorelei Montgomery, and I built an empire from nothing. Not because my father gave me the tools, but because he didn't. Not because I had advantages, but because I didn't. Not because it was easy, but because it was necessary. Dad said, Don't expect a penny from me, I said. Didn't need it, old man, and I meant every word.